Hello and welcome to the Holy Hour podcast. I'm Gavin and thanks so much for joining us. We have a lovely episode for you guys this evening. Chaz and I recently had a chance to talk with Tobias Grave of Softkill, and we had a wonderful conversation. He's very cool, of course, and very open, and a real pleasure to talk to. We hope any Softkill fans that are joining us for the first time feel welcome too, and feel free to stick around. Not too much Cure talk in this one, just as a heads up, but I think there's a strong connection in the fan base there. So if you're unfamiliar with Softkill's music, listen to the conversation, go give it a listen. I think you'll really dig it. Just turned out too, after a couple days after we recorded this, they announced a tour starting in November. It was about 13-date tour at the time of recording this anyway. They might add more to it. But Softkill will be touring with the Lemonheads, my secret favorite band. It doesn't really come up here too much on the podcast because I figure there isn't too much Lemonhead Cure crossover probably. But yeah, I've always loved the Lemonheads, and it'll be great to see Softkill playing with my old buddy Dippy Dando. So yeah, I even named my cat after Evan Dando. So that shows you the level of love I have there. So I can't wait. It's gonna be great, and they're kicking off the tour here in Asheville even on November 5th at the Grey Eagle, my favorite venue. So it's gonna be epic. I hope things still stay great and this happens, because it'll totally break my heart. But I can't wait. And then the tour wraps up in Philly, so Chaz will get to see them up there. So we'll have some great notes to share for you guys at the end of the year, hopefully, of how the tour starts and how the tour ends. So lots of cool stuff to look forward to, and weird coincidence there. So I love it. Go get your tickets for this tour. They're available now, and you should be there in November. It looks like it's mostly like a kind of eastern coast. I don't think there's much on the west coast. Strangely enough, they're starting in Asheville and going through the southeast, then up through Madison and Columbus, Ohio, up to, I think there's a Toronto date before wrapping up in Philly. So scattered dates, hopefully you're included. But let's jump into the conversation, and hope you enjoy. We have Tobias Grave of Softkill on the line. How's it going, man?
I'm good. I'm like not totally losing my mind, but I'm definitely like very, very exhausted from the last year and a half.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Not totally losing your mind is considered a win these days, right? You know? So
yeah, it's seems to be like standard.
Yeah.
You know, if you can be not totally mind lost, then
you're winning.
The day might be productive.
Exactly. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us here. We're breaking from our all Cure promise in our name here, but I don't think any Cure fans out there would mind that we talk with you, because I think there's a lot of crossover. And in fact, yeah, I'm fairly new to your music, actually. It was about a year and a half ago, I guess. I kind of just saw somebody that we had talked to on the podcast here had mentioned he was at one of your shows. And I was like, well, that dude has good taste in music, so that band must be pretty rad. And went down the rabbit hole, and it was cool to get like the whole lump sum of a band, a current band, you know, like we've done in the old days with The Cure and stuff, where you get all these albums all at once. And it's been so long since I've had multiple albums to binge out on and really enjoying them all. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a big pile of material. I think, you know, like the productivity, even pre-getting clean, we seem to be making a lot of music over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, so
Totally.
It's cool to get it out there. It's cool when people find it. And, you know, I feel like there's some variation in there. So
yeah, for sure.
Some records are for certain moods, and times in your life, and other records might never be, but
Exactly.
Yeah, I discovered you guys from Holy Mountain was helping me get my t-shirt business off the ground.
Right. Yeah, I remember him talking about that.
Yeah, and he posted that Trailblazers shirt of yours. And I was just like, I love like the old school Trailblazers. So I was like, what is this? And I just went over and started listening to it. And I was like, I think I sent it to Gavin right away.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's how I stumbled on you guys. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, any way possible, I guess.
I think we're jokingly referred to as Jock Doff. So
Nice.
I'm like totally fine with that.
That's awesome. Yeah, and the most recent album, Chaz stumbled across that one. I was like, yeah, they got a new album out, and I hadn't heard it, and it was near the end of last year, I guess. Dead Kids R.I.P. City. What officially come out in like late November last year?
Yeah, it was late November. Interesting situation, just in that we had recorded it a year prior to that.
Yeah.
And we're shopping it and talking to, and like pretty close to signing a traditional label deal. And then, COVID just, I guess, hit like a week or two before it felt like things were probably going to be like signed, sealed, and delivered in that department. We ended up doing our best at a traditional album cycle the way a label would roll one out, but did it ourselves. And I'm really happy we did it that way. It sucked to be kind of the guinea pigs for what became nationwide shortages and vinyl compound and massive delays from pressing plants and stuff. I think sometimes like fan bases don't necessarily understand how all that stuff works, but still, that being said, it was exciting to have something like that record, which we're all really super proud of, and be able to release it the way that felt right to us,
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, is it still technically, are you cranking it out self-released then, or did somebody pick it up for help with distribution and stuff, since it seems like it's done really well? So
yeah, the record, we had distribution where, we were essentially sending copies to a distributor for stores and whatnot. We didn't do any direct-to-store sales.
Right.
There's a network that most people are locked into there, where the majority of stores have specific distributors that they utilize, and they go into the computer system and they look up if they have it, right? Mm-hmm. So had we just been somebody that we had to be the point of contact for stores, I think that we would have missed out on a great deal of people that would have carried it. Okay. So we did jump on that, but we did a few thousand copies, and I'd say the majority of them, we shipped directly ourselves, we ended up finally getting the second pressing a couple weeks ago, and just got the rest of the jackets a week ago, and we've been packing like 100 records a day and just ready for this to be behind us. I think like it's one thing, because we've always self-released weird limited things like an album of demos or a this or this or a that or that in small quantities, maybe 300 copies, 600 copies. I think we really underestimated how well this record, like what the potential of it was, or what the anticipation people had for it was. Because I don't think we were planning. I think we pressed like 2,500 copies to do, just to last us maybe 6 months. Hopefully we could sell them in 6 months, and they were all gone in the first day. So we were like, who's gonna mail all these? Like, what the fuck?
All of a sudden, you're running an indie label yourselves, and
I mean, it is a lot of work to the assembly of these things, and of course, we didn't compromise in terms of like the packaging or the vinyl. We did a double vinyl. We did a tip-on heavyweight jacket, which is like feels like a hardcover book. It was just like this hefty, inconvenient to assemble kind of like monster compared to anything else we'd done. And, it seemed really exciting until we were having to put these in boxes and mail them across the country.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I don't know what we'll do for the next one, but we might see who else
strip
is
it down. That's cool. Well, yeah, like I said, we love the record. We were doing our end of the year wrap up kind of thing, and Chaz was like, "Yeah, definitely my number one there," and I didn't know it came out yet, so I dove into it after he said that, and we got time to record our episode, and I was like, I think I want to change my answer. It's my number one too. So.
No, I'm so stoked to hear that. I think for me, like, it's a big deal. The subject matter of the record is super personal, but also like the first record that I wrote sober. In terms of the entirety of it, like, it was the first record after this, 15, 16 year period of my life that I was really, really deeply buried in, drug use, opiates and crystal meth and crack and stuff. I was just kind of convinced underneath all of that my productivity was kind of rooted in that, in use. Like, I had to be high out of my mind to be able to come up with ideas. And this record to me is just like above and beyond the best thing that I've been a part of creating. So I feel I was like, wow, okay, cool. What a cool, like, not just milestone for recovery, but also for, like, maybe I'm just getting started writing then,
totally.
A comforting thing,
Exactly. Nothing else that lays to rest the tortured artist thing that you can't, you clearly.
It just feels like it's such a trope, and it's also just being obsessed with, like, Johnny Thunders and just these artists that just seem to go hand in hand with their addictions. Wasn't even that I glamorized it, because it's not. I was not like the socialite, backstage coke user. I was like the totally burn my world to the ground over and over again junkie. It was not, these blips and these periods where music was recorded were always like, I don't really know how they came about, but they did. So some people make it work better than I was able to. It's kind of a miracle that anything actually got recorded during all that time.
Yeah, well,
I just wanted to say personally that, that album really helped me get through the end of last year. I'm like, Gavin and I talk about this all the time, mental health stuff, but I'm bipolar. I grew up in an abused house and all this other shit, and I'm finally dealing with shit in therapy, and it's been really hard on opening a lot of that shit, and like, that album really, like, I don't know, it helped a lot during therapy and just getting through the end of the year, and with COVID and everything on top of it. So I just really wanted to say thank you for that. So yeah,
that's amazing. That record was therapy for my partner Nicole and I. We collaborated on a great deal of the lyrics together because we had very similar experiences and stories, and I just felt like listening to it, it was the most articulate that I felt either of us had ever been about kind of processing a lot of the pain, just carrying all these people with us that, like, aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
And to say that I prioritized my mental health at any point in the past, like, 15, 16 years would just be laughable. But I know that, I believe that addiction is a disease, and it was just this thing where I got clean, and I said, oh my God, like, I'm carrying this insane weight of sadness, that even the stuff that happened to me as a kid that might have been a catalyst for pushing me down some of the paths that I went down, like, I can't even reach that stuff because there's so much piled on top of it. You know what I mean? Just shit that I did to myself, to where I don't know that I'll ever get, like, total resolve from, like, childhood traumas and shit. But the end of last year was just where it broke for me.
Yeah.
You know, like, mentally, like, I kind of powered through the first chunk of quarantine, and then, like, when winter hit, I was like,
right.
you know, just buried, like, oh my God, what is this world we live in? Oh shit, you know. But I mean, I think if for anybody that could connect to some sort of therapeutic aspect of the record, like, that's like super exciting to me, and also makes sense, because that's what it was for us, you know.
Cool.
Yeah.
Man.
That's awesome.
And all the while, you know, the writing and stuff, there's so many great hooks and just catchiness. I mean, it's just really jumps out, you know, like I said, getting the whole lump sum and seeing the progression of your albums. Like, as much as I've really enjoyed the previous ones, this one just clearly seemed like a next level, game on kind of thing, where I was like, whoa, this one's really just coming out blazing with these songs that get stuck in your head after like 2 listens and stuff. And I'm a big sucker for that, so I was like on board. So.
Yeah, I think we got excited when it was hard to pick singles, because I kind of felt like any of them could have been singles, you know, just in terms of the direction. Like, I mean, you know, if you just wanted big poppy hooks or like memorable sadness, which seem to be the two, you know, name like whatever you need. But I think what really shines through on this record is of course we're influenced by bands like The Cure and Chameleons and on and on and on.
Right.
But there's also this like deep obsession with Tom Petty and with the Cars.
Right.
And just like having songs that hit and go to the point. And it's not that you can't have, like, you know, there's tracks like Oil Burner and Floodgate that are longer, but there was just this emphasis on writing these driving, catchy, you know, 2.5, 2 minutes, 45-second pop songs.
Right.
Almost like you were just like it was a mixtape or a soundtrack to an old movie, more than like a one band making one album, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Was that something you kind of saw coming with the writing when you guys were putting it together, or was it something more production wise when you started laying it down?
You know, when we wrote Choke was the first record that was more collaborative in nature.
Mm-hmm.
I am the only original member, and at that point it kind of had felt like when we went to the Choke sessions, I brought songs like Whirl, and Lost and Feel the Knife, and it was one of those things where, like, we made a conscious decision to collaborate, to try to fill out as much of the record as possible. And at that point, like, regardless of how I feel about Choke in the current whatever climate of looking back on that stuff, I think that we kind of made a decision like, yo, this is how we should try to do stuff. Now, Savior wasn't done that way at all.
Right.
But Savior, I wrote Savior, based on an experience that my partner and my kid, when he was born, went through. And when that was happening, that was the first time that, even though I feel like there's growth and change on the other records, where I was writing things that I felt were very uncharacteristically soft kill. And Cure, ironically, being a band where you have to go back and say, yo, this discography is fucking so ridiculously all over the place.
Right.
But what makes it the Cure is Robert Smith's voice, right? So like maybe just like step outside of your comfort zone and embrace some of these different ideas that just because even though they don't feel like, you know, what people expect from Soft Kill. And Savior has a very, like, Ben Greenberg's production on that is perfect for that record. It is one-dimensional in the sense that, you know, it feels like this cohesive thing of a band playing in a room, which Basic Tracking was done that way. That's really what it is. It's supposed to be that. Dead Kids, it was like I was bringing songs that were all very, very catchy. The hooks were apparent. It felt nostalgic. The subject matter was definitely nostalgic because we were talking about people and things that people we had lost and experiences we had had many years ago.
Right.
So I was kind of seeing that, but going into the studio with Dave Trumfio, who everyone jokingly calls New Wave Dave, he like really pushed. I don't want to say that it wasn't already where it was going to be sonically, but he knew how to shape that and what elements to add for it to be just this total wall of sound. And I mean, we kind of had pre-established in talking to him, like, yo, this is like, let's try to do like Breakfast Club alternate soundtrack.
Right.
Like, what would that be? You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was kind of the joke we were throwing around, and it wasn't until it was finished and I listened to the album in mastered form at the end that I was just like, oh, fuck, I think we might have done it.
Yeah, you nailed it. For sure.
You know? It's like, God, dude, this is all over the place. It's a legit double LP. It's over 50 minutes of music, yet it doesn't drag for me. You know, when I listened to it, I was like, I was like, that's cool. What an accomplishment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's just keeps rolling. Keep waiting for like the down part of the album or something. I'm like, oh no, it's over, which is great. And then you just start it all over again. It's.
I mean, we purposely were like, when we were doing the track layout, because the majority, all of Soft Kill's records have been laid out in album form via demo before they're even like the track listing has already been decided.
Okay.
With, you know, there's obviously like an open mind to changing that, but it was this one felt very realized. But I purposely was like, yo, Pretty Face, Ducky, Inverness, these things on the flip, like when you're expecting album filler, we purposely put what were some of my favorite songs at that time.
Yeah.
Just like an emphasis on big hooks. Obviously, Oil Burner's supposed to be the psych out end of the record.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then like just actually ending with something that was like very, like probably the most removed from what people would expect from the band at the end. Like that was all super intentional.
Yeah.
But you know, that's kind of like as fun as the songwriting is the structure of records, because so many of the records that were super impactful to me were ones that just rolled out in this way that like you're like, that's my favorite. No, that's my fucking favorite song.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is actually the best song right here, you know?
Exactly.
Like, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's always the best sign when you can't even decide. That's cool.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time over the last week listening to the Premium Drifter LP. And Gavin and I talk about this. What makes a song not end up on an album? Like we debate like Cure B-sides all the time and stuff like that. But what is in a vision of an artist? Like what prevents a song getting on an album?
I can say that to speak specifically of Premium Drifter and Dead Kids, which are like obviously sister records to one another.
Yeah.
Like True Lies was the opener for Dead Kids for about a year and a half in demo form.
Oh, wow.
Like it was like,
okay.
oh yeah, this is definitely it. This is fucking the album opener. I think the reason that it didn't end up on the album, I still think that that's one of my favorite songs, was that my original bounce down when I wrote that song, the lead guitar was a little too loud. So even though it was like an impactful song, I was like, this particular mix isn't going to cut it. And I was too forward moving and maybe like a little too OCD to go back and change it. You know, like, it's so stupid. It could be something that stupid.
Okay.
I love Premium Drifter as a whole. I love all of those songs. For whatever reason, they didn't feel cohesive to the record at the exact moment that it was decided, or songs like Build Your Prison Walls, I wrote while still fucked up on crystal meth. So there was this like this negativity to that. Like it was one that felt like, regardless of how much we liked it, that it would be, it would kind of pollute the record.
Right.
Songs like Swept Away, I don't think we realized the full potential of. That's a regret. Like that's a song that I think should have been re-recorded and done. As much as I love the demo, I just think that like a big produced version of it could have been great. But the majority, like songs like Ducky, Inverness, Oil Burner, which started from riffs that Conrad had written, those ended up on the record like a week before we went in the studio. And that was probably based on me being tired of listening to the demo version of the record and going, I'm bored of this. I've been listening to it this way for 6 months. Let's just put different songs in there.
Right.
So I went and like wrote different songs, you know? It's I don't know. Like I try to like, I guess I like personally just like, if you're really into Softkill, then you understand there's more than just like the official records.
Right.
You're going to get it all. There's there's like 90 other demos that no one's heard.
Yeah.
I kind of get as excited about those like limited releases that navigate around all of the predetermined channels that the music industry like decides are the way to go. You know what I mean? So if you like, if you really fuck with us, you know, like Premium Drifter got no premieres. There was not even like sent to any press outlets. You know, it was something that we just did ourselves, and it was just kind of like a document to for like the diehard people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I also too like, you know, I'm kind of going all over the place. I personally prefer the lower fi stuff. Production wise, like my comfort zone, I can't produce a song to sound really clear, and I don't know what EQ actually means, and on and on. So I produce things very lo-fi, and it has this like warmness and this distorted sense and like ghost melodies and all this shit buried in there.
Right.
And when I hear them, that's how, like, sometimes it's hard to take those songs and translate them into produced album versions that retain what I think feels special about them. So that's like kind of always going to be my comfort zone.
Yeah, can see that.
Gotcha.
And you know, do you think there'll be songs that will probably, you know, show up in live sets and such too? So it's not like they're cast away into rarities land forever. You know, do you think you'll play them live? Or
I think we'll play Swept Away and Build Your Prison Walls.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's getting hard at this point because there's so many records.
Yeah.
And in America, people want you to play for 40 minutes and then get the fuck off the stage. So 40 minutes for us is like, you know, 8 songs.
Yeah.
You know? And we have to play Whirl, and Whirl is like, feels like it's like 7 minutes long. But in Europe, like, you can play for like 3 hours and people will still be there.
Yeah.
I feel like some of that stuff will work its way into European set lists initially. It's hard. Like I like a lot of the songs. For like a long time we were kind of stuck playing shit that like I don't think we were all super stoked on. Like there was a few songs from every record that we felt really translated well live, and we just kind of stuck with that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to try to mix it up as much as possible, but like we're really eager to play this stuff from Dead Kids.
Right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it must be really hard. I mean, there was the two sides of all the COVID mess of like, man, you've got this clearly brilliant record. How hard that must have been to not immediately go on the road and tour for it. And but at the same time too, the plus maybe of your fans are really absorbing it, so now they're dying for it when you do get out there. So there could be that.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that people like. Bands that released records, because a lot of people were scared to. And the reason we self-released is like the labels we spoke to, obviously who had like big PR machines behind them and would have promoted and pushed this in a different manner. They were scared. They were like, not this timeline. They were like 2021. And I'm like, by that point, like, let's just do a different record in 2021.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like fucking, let's put this because we were, I think, one of the few bands that continued to grow throughout this period.
Yeah.
A lot of people went into hibernation, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
But living off of music, like we had to release the record. And I think it's exciting to think like, we'll get to go out and these will already be embedded into people that care about their, like these songs, into their brains.
Right.
They'll have favorite songs from the record. It's not just going to be the obvious cuts,
Yeah.
So I feel like it's somewhat of a blessing. It's been hard. We were playing songs like Roses and Pretty Face and Wanting More live, leading up to the recordings for a while.
Okay.
So that's kind of always been our thing. Is like maybe we're premiering too much new material well before it's like scheduled to be recorded. Chris Bruni, who does Profound Lore, he came to see us the first time in New York on the tour that like Savior was going to come out at the end of the tour. And we played like 6 songs from Savior, and he was like, man, great set tonight, sold out show, you guys killed it. Kind of played way too much new stuff. I was like, you can do that? Like, that's like not a good thing to do, But you're like, people like don't have any attachment to it yet. They're like, huh?
Play the hits. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I also like grew up going to see bands that like there was a lot of like core bands and that I would go to see growing up that like they would play the new album that was coming out next year in its entirety instead of anything old. Like you're not going to get the song you fell in love with the record before, and that's a little extreme. But there's got to be like a happy medium in there. Like you want the band to be excited.
Yeah, because they're gonna be pumped for the new stuff, and I always think back on those shows and love them too. When they played some song you didn't know, but then you heard it for the first time live. Then you hear it on the record later, and it's all like that was that one, man. That's like, kind of a cool special feeling, So it's a
I mean, Wanting More and was a big one. Where people were writing us constantly and going, what was the third song that you played? And I'd be like, not out yet. And it like kind of felt like good to be like, to let somebody down. Like, you got to stay tuned a little longer.
Right.
Like, you have to be paying attention, motherfucker.
Totally.
Cool.
Well, along those lines, do you, are you writing at the moment for new stuff or?
Yeah, we've got this cat Sean Durkin who does a band called Weekend.
Mm-hmm.
They did a couple records on Slumberland. They're not broken up. They've been inactive for a few years. He joined the band right around, I guess, like around the time that the album came out.
Okay.
And moved up to Portland, and we've been pretty much actively, like he, myself, and Conrad, who's been in the band since Heresy, jamming and writing. I've been like going through all my old demos and pulling stuff. that sound like just that I'm like, hey, maybe this is like should be finished or worked on or played around with. And I think we've got somewhere around like 15 finished songs out of all of that.
Awesome.
There's another like at least 70 demos that I've written that either have like a vocal melody or no lyrics at all, but have music.
Right.
We're trying to find the sound. We are actively like trying to determine when the next record's going to happen. I think we've figured out who we want to produce it. I think we've figured out when that will come out, and I think we've got the right options of who's going to release it kind of narrowed down as well. So we are making progress on all of that. I wish that we could just release an album like every 6 months.
Yeah.
But that's also like the addict in me, just like wanting to constantly be doing something. You know, like, yeah, let's go again. I need the high of a new record and like 10 people saying that it fucking is important. So yeah, we're writing constantly. Like that's a big part of this band is like just being as active and forward moving as possible. You really have to be, if you're in the position we're in, which like I said, is like, I don't have a day job. I live off of the band.
Yeah.
My partner Nicole lives off the band. You know, we have a storefront. We sell records and guitar pedals and soft kill merch and merch from other bands that we fuck with.
Right.
We've tried to diversify while like continuing to make art the focus, and as triumphant as like succeeding in that to some degree is, it's also like very nerve-wracking. So you're like, okay, well, time to write more songs. Time to at least be ready. You know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Have you felt that the process has like been challenging or cool in a challenging way as far as like, you know, not being able to just all get together in a room, I'm assuming, and you know, work out these new songs? Have it?
You know, I think we never have gotten into a room and worked out songs.
Yeah.
I mean, Dead Kids, we went into a studio. Danny, our drummer, was already familiar with 3 of the songs from having played them live, but he was sent the demos and said, like, hey, learn these.
Yeah.
Going to the studio next week.
Cool.
It's not, we've never been the band that, like, got together and jammed stuff out.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time where it's felt maybe like that would be an like an exciting prospect, like working on songs that have organically created transitions and bridges and, you know, pre-choruses and things of that nature that you can only kind of really, at least the way my brain works, come up with while like playing with a band and going, oh wait, what if the beat changed right there? And Danny definitely injects his own thing into stuff, but like my formula has always been like so rooted, much like those Cure demos, where it's just like a drum machine playing the same beat over and over again.
Yeah.
You know, there's a verse 4 times, a chorus 4 times, a verse 4 times, a chorus 8 times, an outro. Right. You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
It's like, I hate calling it one-dimensional, but that repetition has always like kind of played a role in like creating some sort of like hypnotic element or whatever.
Yeah.
It appears to be. But yeah, I mean, I think it's weird. It was hard to detox from being together as a band as much as we were the last 2 years. Like I felt like we were probably always on tour. We get in a room together. We've ended up getting in a room together about 3 times as a whole band during all of this, and it's just been like, okay, this feels fucking totally weird. What do we do?
Totally.
No.
Yeah, add it to the list, right? All the weirdness.
Yeah, it's strange. And I mean, we built a new lineup during this. The band that was touring up until COVID hit is not the band that's going back out. So
okay.
Okay.
It's been good to have the downtime to figure that out, but it was also like holy shit, like who are these fucking people?
Right.
You know, a little bit. You don't really know it's somebody till you're like waiting in line to fucking shower 5 people in one hotel room or whatever.
Right. It surely can
And then you're
bond.
like, I hate this motherfucker. I hate these people.
Turns out I hate all of you. What's going on?
Yeah, I don't. What the fuck? Why did I fucking ever do this?
Awesome.
Nothing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. What's it like being home, like as a father during the whole pandemic, instead of like being out on the road normally or coming home and then going out?
I would say that it's been incredibly rewarding to spend time with my kid as he turned 3 and he just turned 4.
Yeah.
I missed every birthday. So
Yeah.
I got to have these 2 back to back. I got to formulate a really solid bond with him that's going to make it much harder to leave.
Yeah.
I think I'm starting to weigh and understand, since I don't like know anything about how to be like a fucking adult, how much a child, you know, is really reliant upon both parents in different ways.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
being home for that has been priceless. My natural instinct is to be on the move, no matter how much how exhausting it is. I love playing music. I love playing live. It's like our favorite thing. It's been hard. I definitely think there's been a lot of existential like madness, like just like what the fuck are we doing and why?
Yeah.
Do we do it? And like, this was just the stupidest decision ever to fucking be in a professional band. Oh my God, look how this is now that the bottom is falling out.
Yeah.
But, you know, in the past, think about the past month or 2, we've been like confirming our first shows back, and that's restored some order. It feels like we're all ready to get the fuck out and do this. But it's going to be a weird world that we're all returning to. Like, I really wonder what it will look and feel like, and what the response will be.
Yeah.
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 Now, I have a couple of father questions just because it's something personal for, you know,
Of course.
Gavin and I. Now, are you proud of what you've overcome, and how do you communicate that to a child? Like I am 4 years old, but I mean, as they grow up, do you do that through your art? I mean, how do you approach those topics?
God, I mean, you know, I have a child whose parents are both addicts in recovery.
Yeah.
My partner's got coming up on 11 years clean. We both completely nuked our lives. You know what I mean? Like no one left standing. All family that's still around, blown away that we're alive. It's been a beautiful, bittersweet, tragic celebration internally as a family, right? Like, you know, it's one of those things. I feel like I'm hyper aware of the path and the hurdles that he'll have to navigate, because like genetically, like he might be, it's kind of be burned into his DNA to not be able to handle what is kind of normalized by everybody around him, you know. Getting fucked up, smoking a joint, drinking some beers, because both of his parents, you know, like that immediately led to total chaos. So yeah, for me it's hard. Like I want to he knows that I make art. He knows that that I'm in a band. He like sees it on, like, we'll show him on YouTube once in a while, and he'll be like, oh, that's Daddy. Daddy's in the band. And all of the band members come around, and he's like, that's Uncle Conrad. That's Uncle Sean. Uncle Danny. Like, he's normalized that this is that, like, that this is, like, what I do.
Mm-hmm.
He really resents the idea of me leaving. And I realized that being home, what I didn't think he picked up on, like, dude, if I go to the store and I'm gone for, like, 3 hours and just, like, running errands, like, he'll call and be like, Dada, come back. Like, don't go. And I'm like, dude, I'm here. Like, I'm not going anywhere. You know, it's crazy. Like, you see these kids and you just, like, don't realize the sponges that they are, and that they suck up all of this energy, good and bad, you know. They soak up anger. They soak up, like, frustration. They know when you're depressed. And they try to process that, and it's like, I don't know how I'm going to, like, continue to explain this stuff. It's just something that I hope that I only have to do at the level that we're doing it for a few more years before, like, there's maybe some diversified means of making money. But, you know, the harsh reality is that there is money to be made playing in an independent band. You just have to tour a lot. You have to, like, constantly be thinking about merchandise. You have to constantly be releasing stuff. You cannot hand your career over to a lot of these, like, budget manager people that have worked their way into, like, the post-punk and whatever scene. And just expect miracles to happen, because it's just not how it fucking works, you know? It's like, you're going to work as hard as you would work at any other job. And as many, if not more hours, you know? So, he's a smart kid. I'm trying to take it one step at a time, and, you know, hopefully not destroy his life in the process.
I have like a personal question that doesn't necessarily need to be on the podcast if it's not something that you're not okay with. But the Savior lyrics where you say, because it kind of hit me hard, was it wasn't part of the plan and I didn't answer the call.
Yeah.
Can you explain that to me? Like what that was? Because I there's a reason that it hit me personally, and I just wanted to know what that is. Like,
so when Nicole was pregnant, just to be, I mean, this is, I actually have no problem in the immediate moment, hiding, or like being honest about the subject matter of that. So when I met Nicole, I got clean. That was 2016. And I had many off and on relapses until 2018. Okay. So even though Nicole was pregnant and, you know, we were building a family and obviously building a relationship and trust with one another, I just, like, the change in a solidified relationship with somebody that was empathetic to my condition and a child on the way were in no way, shape, or form enough. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't getting the help. I wasn't really addressing. I wasn't being accountable like it was an issue. So she had been diagnosed with this thing called placenta previa, where the placenta was blocking the birth canal. And it means that when the child comes out vaginally, that it ruptures that, and she can bleed to death. The child can die. It kind of been determined that she was going to have to have a C-section if the placenta didn't naturally move out of the way on its own. This involved several hospitalizations during her pregnancy. We were living back home in Chicago. I had moved her back out to Chicago. And so we were at Mount Sinai fairly regularly. the doctors would suggest that she stay there permanently till the baby was born. It would be a day, and we'd be like, what the fuck are we doing? And we'd get the fuck out, and we'd go home because she would stop bleeding. She would have these, like, small hemorrhages. So when Dominic was actually born, Soft Kill had come out to play a few shows in Southern California. We flew out from Chicago. Nicole decided to come out because it was still like a month and a half, 2 months before he was supposed to be born. Yeah. And even though it was against doctor's orders, they're kind of, I think what she was thinking was like, yo, after this tour, we need to go up to Oregon. I want to have my kid back home. Yeah. Chicago's a real fucked up, crazy place, and it's not a very good place for me. So, you know, this is a pretty convoluted answer or whatever, but we're driving back to Portland after the show. Nicole hemorrhages, starts bleeding. We're probably somewhere on the 5 between, like, adjacent to Bakersfield. We're in the middle of fucking nowhere. And I immediately am just like, this isn't, oh, here we go again. You know, they're like, stupid hemorrhage. We're going to go to the fucking hospital, and they're going to, like, tell her that she's fucked, and then we're going to just leave. Because, like, of course they want us with no insurance to sit in the hospital and, like, owe them $250,000. Yeah. We're going to go. So, like, we got up to Sacramento. I went and checked the boys in to the hotel. He called me. We got into a fight on the phone about, like, you need to come to the hospital right now. And I was like, listen, I'm going to be there in a second. And then she hung up the phone on me, and I missed the call. When she called back, I called the hospital. They said visiting hours were closed. I called the room. She wouldn't pick up the room call. I just, like, basically sat there fuming all night. And the next morning when I went into the hospital, I walked in and she goes, we're having the baby right now. So it wasn't part of the plan for it to happen in Sacramento. I didn't answer the call. I always carried the guilt and regret of that, even though in the immediate I was like, this motherfucking asshole's not picking up the phone. Why is she making this so difficult? But, you know, one thing I'll say, and maybe you can, like, this isn't to condone that level of irresponsibility, but, like, until the child is in front of your face as a guy, you have no fucking idea what you fucking bit off. Like, you have the reality of it and the importance of it and the weight of it becomes this, it hits you like a wrecking ball in a world where, like, I feel like Nicole understood the complexity of all of that long before our child was even born. You know, like, it's like science, like nature and science took over. For me, I was like, my life's not going to change. I'm in a band, and I'm going to have a kid, too, and I've never had a kid, and that's going to be really fucking different and cool. And it was just like, I see my kid, and I'm like, oh, my God, what the fuck is happening right now? Yeah, so I did, you know, that song, I went into, my kid was on life support, his lung collapsed. I went right in, and I picked up a laptop that I had with me, and I wrote Bunny Room and Savior as one song. It was supposed to be one track right there in the room that Nicole was recovering in. They let us be there for 5 days before they kicked us out. Dominic remained in the hospital for a month. And we were just in Sacramento, like, fucking people lent us Airbnbs. We got to go to the Ronald McDonald House. But that was just like, I poured that whole thing out in those lyrics, and they were very much, you know, I was thinking of it was just an examination of my inability to save my son, and maybe also my inability to save myself. You know, because I was still really deaf. I wasn't on drugs at that exact moment, but I was like, you know, the fragility of all of that, of these, like, moments of clarity through cold, like, white knuckling, no drug use, are just, like, so fragile and stupid. There's some honesty.
I appreciate it.
No, I bring it up because my pregnancy with my wife wasn't planned either, and I didn't do as well as I should have when it came to being there for her that whole time, because I was wrapped up in abuse from my father and my stepfather and all this other shit, and my mental health, and like, what am I going to pass on to my kids, because my father was an alcoholic, and like, what am I going to, and there's all this fear going on, and I shut down. And like those two lines like hit me like a sledgehammer, like when I was listening to it. And it's it's something that we're working on in our marriage. But yeah,
I think it was crazy how many times I thought that I was being incredibly honest and forthcoming in a way that was beneficial to my relationship, but in reality I was just being incredibly self-absorbed. It was just it's been the hardest thing to navigate around, is being like, oh, like, here's an explanation behind why I'm inadequately able to do a very simple thing in my relationship. But it's a really good story, and it's gonna do a lot of good for me to like realize that it's rooted in the time when my stepfather did. And then they're just looking at me like, oh my God, motherfucker. Like, just do the dishes, like, do the dishes in this immediate moment. And like, it does suck that happened, but like, whoa. And I think it's a lot of fear. It's weird how, I mean, clearly it seems like you can relate. Like, the men in my life did not prepare me to be a man.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But like, everything changed like as soon as like I had my son with me in a room by myself. And like, I'm just like, fuck, this is real, and you're gonna have to do better. And it's like, okay, all right, I gotta change some way, and it, you're right, exactly right. Like, once you have that moment, it's like, Jesus Christ.
Well, I think an important thing too is like, you're looking back and processing things that destroyed, I guess, just like the sanctity of like childhood, right? Like, you're going, okay, I went through things that took away the innocence, that robbed me of that robbed me of that peace and of a lot of growth that I could have potentially had. And I think the most tragic thing is where that manifests itself into you taking that away from your own child as well. Like, not allowing them to have that same, you know what I mean? What you've like really put on a pedestal as being really important, that you lost it. Right. And then you're like, by the way, I'm going to strip it from you, because I'm still a fucking child. And I think it's important. I think that's been like very important to me, is I know straight up that even though Nicole is around the clock aware of Dominic's needs, stuff that may seem trivial, stuff that is just his basic functioning, that's just constantly there, that he still looks to me for whatever reason and says, Rob. He's looking to me as like his protector. When my outbursts of frustration and anger when the world's not going right are the scariest possible thing to him. My love seems to be the most substantial to him. For whatever reason, even with how lopsided the responsibility and roles are in life, where like women carry 1,000 times more weight with less recognition, like scientifically, for some reason, like I hold this greater importance to our child, and I just can't take it for granted. Like, I don't always deserve that, but I feel incredibly blessed to have the guide map of how to navigate around stuff that like destroyed me, that my family did, that literally destroyed me. I won't let him go through that stuff. He doesn't have to. He's like, God, like, sometimes it feels like he has like 9 grandparents from all my parents' marriages, and you know what I mean, like all this crazy shit. But what he actually has is he's like surrounded by like so many loving beings that just adore him, and I get to see him feel safe naturally, instinctively, and that like even around strangers, and that makes me go like some people are like, oh your kid is like needs to understand boundaries, and I'm like, no, my kid trusts the world right now, and I want to retain that as long as possible before it's like apparent that that's dangerous.
Yeah. Totally.
Wow. All that hit hard. I appreciate it, though.
Yeah, this shit is, I mean, that shit's just real. That shit's like the basis of of so much.
Sorry, my wife's getting home from work and the dogs are going nuts.
All good.
Cool.
Gavin, where did you want to go?
Well, we won't keep you too much longer. I really appreciate your time. Maybe we can wrap up with a few just kind of general questions from the early days. I was just kind of always curious of what were some of the first albums that you obsessed over as a kid and got music kind of perked your ears up and knew that it was going to be a huge part of your life, I'm assuming.
The first bands that were incredibly impactful to me, Kiss was the first thing aesthetically that I just was like, whoa, I'm 38 years old. I existed in post heyday of Kiss. Horrible band. But like larger than life persona. Yeah. It's kind of what drew me to music. My dad, just to be forthcoming, my dad and my uncle have both lived in like the roadie touring industry. My dad is a front of house sound guy. My uncle is a guitar tech. They've done that the entirety of their lives. So I grew up around music and on tour with bands. So none of that stuff interested me. Like the bands they worked for, I was like, ugh. Right. I don't care about Aerosmith. Right. But I like Kiss was really interesting to me. The first album that really felt important to me was probably Pretty Hate Machine by Nine Inch Nails. Right. Actually, I would say before that, Injustice for All by Metallica was like the first record where I was like, oh my God. And then Nine Inch Nails played Woodstock in '94. Right on. And I was blown away by that. And then I just started peeling it back. It was just like, X from Decline of a Western Civilization, like them playing Nausea. That song really hit me. Like Sex Pistols, Nevermind the Bullets was really important to me. Those types of records, like I was a total punk rock kid. Right. It wasn't until I was like 17 that I really like understood The Cure or like Killing Joke. Right. And started to kind of shape myself in that direction. But, probably like the first record that really blew my mind in like outside of just watching MTV and loving like Psychedelic Furs and The Cure in theory, just like sonically, like I wasn't going out and buying the records. But, Blitz was an oi band that like also just, like had some songs that like were very new wave pop. Mm-hmm. First time I heard like bass through chorus, things like that like really seemed to grab my ear. All of that kind of mixed together was like, 10 to like 15 years old. Right.
And when did you start, playing music and realizing there's something you could create too? Was that
the first band I was in? I was 14. Okay. I played bass in a punk band. I think I played like a show when I was 15 and another show when I was 16. That's the two different venues that you could play at where I grew up.
Where was that?
That was in Seacoast, New Hampshire.
Okay.
So we were like 45 minutes outside of Boston. We had Portland, Maine. We had Seacoast, New Hampshire, and we had Boston and Providence. They all had like, I didn't grow up in the sticks. We had like access to stuff. Yeah. But it wasn't until I like sang in bands that I didn't like growing up. it wasn't really until like I started getting kind of into industrial and noise stuff and realizing that I didn't need to know how to play music to go play shows.
Right.
That was like a big thing for me because I was always an idea person more than like a follow through person because I'd found drugs too and wasn't dealing with a lot of shit that, you know, was traumatic in my childhood and shit like that. And I'm not making, it's important to talk again, like about mental health, but I'm not making, not acting as though that was like a total anchor away from like fucking why I didn't make a lot of good choices in my life. Like I was out to destroy myself. Right. You know what I mean? Like I didn't pick up a guitar and write a song in standard E tuning that I ended up going to record. I had recorded a bunch of just like synth pop projects and things as a kid. Like I was playing around with sounds and textures that would eventually become what I do now. But it wasn't until I was like 25 or 26 that I like realized how to work an 8-track and started writing music, and it just came out as this. I was never trying to make post-punk. It just was like what my voice, I grew up listening to the Misfits, you know, like that was just crooning singing. It wasn't Joy Division, you know, it was like punk. It was based in punk rock more than that, you know. It wasn't until I feel like kind of a late bloomer to all of it in terms of just like being able to take ownership of how to complete a project and not rely on people.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's it's surprising too for, you know, how well you've been able to craft the songwriting, and I really, you know, always latch onto that aspect of songs, and especially just the personal side of being able to have that outlet of, you know, conveying your emotions and feelings and stuff into the songs, and use that as a really good, you know, outlet.
Yeah, that's been a natural gift to me. Like I'd say that's something I've carried with me since birth, is an ability to like inject my emotions and what I'm going through into words and into songs. Yeah. But I paid a lot of attention to like, I've always liked big hooks and I've always liked pop music. But I also like, not being formally trained, I think that it forced me to create and write music in a unique way outside of like, I mean, even a lot of the current new post-punk bands you hear, like, these kids are great at guitar and bass. Right. You know, and because of that, they almost emulate, and I'm not shitting on anybody, they almost emulate their influences, like, too fluidly. Like, it's too dead on, you know? Yeah. I've never had the ability to do that. Right. So it's kind of forced, because the fact that I want to work as fast as possible and the fact that I don't know how to play instruments outside of my basic self-taught understanding of them has always made it kind of uniquely my own, which I feel blessed about. As frustrated as I am that I can't go to Guitar Center and impress anybody, I'm still like, well, at least it doesn't like just sound like Bauhaus or something.
Totally, yeah. That just makes it more sincere, and you know, that way it's all you, you know.
Absolutely,
I'm definitely in the same boat there. So that's awesome. Very cool, man. Well, we gotta let you run there, I think. I don't want to keep you too late. It sounds like Chaz has to roll here too. So I hope you have a great rest of the week, and thanks so much for talking to us and making this work out.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me go off.
Anytime, man. Thank you so much.
I loved it. Thank you very much.
And definitely look forward to any new recordings and such. And we'll keep the Dead Kids rolling and the other albums too over here. And I totally recommend anybody on our side here that hasn't, definitely check them out. We'll put links to everything here on the social media outlets and such. So we really appreciate it.
And we'll be out on tour in November and then spring of next year. So hopefully I'll see y'all face to face at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Philadelphia.
Cool deal, man.
Cool. Appreciate y'all.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Thank you very much.
We'll catch you soon. Have a good rest of the week.
You too. Take care.
What an awesome guy. Thank you so much, Tobias, for taking the time to talk with us. All you guys out there, be sure to check out Dead Kids R.I.P. City if you have not, the latest album from Soft Kill, as well as all the albums in the back catalog. You won't be disappointed. And be sure to go see them live this fall. Do yourself a favor and go see them just destroy it out on the road. So get your tickets now. I have a feeling they're going to go fast, so might want to secure that at the moment, right now. So thanks again, Tobias, and thank you, Chaz, for setting that up, and hope you guys enjoyed it. Would love to wrap up with whoa, there's some thunder going on out there. A shout out. Our Patreon crew brings the thunder, literally. Donna, Craig, Jeff, Matt, Jeff, Claire, Suzanne, and a welcome to John. And Lisa up in Calgary, who wants to give you a heads up about a cool live stream that's going on from one of her favorite pubs up there in Calgary. It's at Dickens is the name of the pub. But on Twitch, there's a channel where the owner, Chris, is DJing Tuesdays and Wednesday nights and Friday nights on Twitch on Dickens YYC, and he's doing his DJ set of 80s, music, dark wave, synth, all this kind of stuff that we all love. So check that out on Twitch. Like I said, Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, and on Fridays at 9 p.m. Mountain Time. And there's a really cool chat there that you can chat with while you're having your own little dance party. So go check that out. Again, that's Dickens YYC on Twitch. And of course, Scott Solo, or Scott Kruger, however you may know him, co-hosts a wonderful Star Wars podcast called Sarlacc Digest. Check out their YouTube page where you can find them live now on Monday nights at 8 Pacific time during the new season of this Bad Batch show. They're going to be doing it Monday nights. So really cool show, great rapport with all those guys. They're all hilarious, and any level Star Wars fan, you're going to want to check this out. So check them out on the YouTube page, where you can also find all the past episodes and some special one-off interviews with Star Wars authors and actors. So all kinds of cool stuff. Can't recommend that enough for all your Star Wars needs. And of course, Kate runs CureThreads.com, so we would love it if you go check that out and see all the cool original art and designs that she's created over there for Cure fans to embrace their fandom with their fashion sense and see what she has to offer. Tons of cool stuff, and also check out her children's books that she's illustrated. They're over there. There's a new one called Secret Life of the Sloth that is hopefully still available over there, and I think you and your little ones will adore these books. So go check out CureThreads.com. And of course, our buddy Chaz at 17 Seconds Shirts.BigCartel.com is where you can find his Cure wardrobe and designs that he's come up with. So go check those out, and follow him on 17_seconds too to get all the latest scoop on any cool new Cure shirts in the works. All right, Apple Podcasts is where you want to subscribe to follow the Holy Hour podcast, and you can also find us everywhere else, though: Spotify, Google Play, and our YouTube page. You might want to subscribe over there. There's some bonus content and extra cool little playlist that you might want to check out over there if you are into the YouTube lifestyle. And of course, Facebook is where you'll find additional material to go along with each episode, and you can chime in with comments on there. So go check us out, as well as the Instagram is where you'll probably catch the most up-to-date and relevant news and scoop from us, the Holy Hour podcast on Instagram. On top of that, just email me, gavinconnor@gmail.com, if you have any questions that we didn't cover. And we'll hopefully catch you soon. Thanks again, Tobias. Thanks, Chaz. And go listen to yourself some Soft Kill. Talk hard.
But now is not